Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Today is Monday, April 29th, 2019. Today I'm going to go over the last 6 rounds of the NFL draft, but I'm going to do a draft podcast in depth later on tonight, but I'll just go over the second and third round picks and notable players that went in the 4th through 7th rounds. NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs, looking back on the weekend's games, look ahead to tonight's games. Baseball, go over yesterday's games, look ahead to tonight's games. Baseball power rankings, and my best bet of the day. All right, the draft continued into the weekend. Friday night were rounds 2 and 3, and then Saturday were rounds 4 through 7. It was interesting to say the least. Arizona Cardinals picked first on Friday night. They took Byron Murphy from Washington, the cornerback. Then the Colts followed up with a cornerback pick of their own of Rocky Ya-Sin from Temple. Jacksonville is picked third, I should say. Jawan Taylor, that's a great pick. San Francisco, Deebo Samuel. Carolina, Greg Little. Buffalo, Cody Ford. Tampa, Sean Bunting. Oakland, Trayvon Mullen. Denver took Dalton Risner and then traded back up and took Drew Lock. Detroit Lions, Jelani Tavai from Hawaii. Green Bay, Elton Jenkins, the interior lineman from Mississippi State. I'm talking about offensive lineman, not defensive lineman. New England took Joejuan Williams from Vanderbilt. Cleveland took Greedy Williams out of LSU. That was a steal. Seattle took Marquise Blair from Utah. New Orleans took Eric McCoy from A&M. That was a solid choice. The Colts took Ben Bagnabu from TCU. Didn't love that pick. Minnesota took Irv Smith Jr. from Bama. Tennessee took A.J. Brown of Ole Miss. That was a good pick. Drew Sample from Washington got drafted by Cincinnati, the tight end. Philly took Miles Sanders from Penn State. He was Saquon Barkley's backup until this past season. So the Eagles have a ton of running backs on their team now. Houston took Lonnie Johnson Jr. from Kentucky. Houston then took Max Sharping from Northern Illinois. Kansas City took McCole Hardman from Georgia. Philly again, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside from Stanford. Dallas took Tristan Hill from UCF. Indy took Paris Campbell of Ohio State. Chargers took Nasir Adderley of Delaware. Rams took Taylor Rapp of Washington. Arizona took Andy Isabella from UMass. Kansas City took Juan Thornhill from Virginia. Seattle, with the last pick of the second round, traded up and took DK Metcalf of Ole Miss. Third round, Arizona took Zach Allen from BC. Pittsburgh took Deontay Johnson from Toledo. San Fran took Jalen Hurd of Baylor. Jets took Jachai Polite from Florida. Jacksonville took Josh Oliver of San Jose State. Rams took Darrell Henderson from Memphis. Denver took Draymond Jones of Ohio State. That was a good pick. Cincinnati took Jermaine Pratt of NC State. Chicago took David Montgomery from Iowa State. Buffalo took Devin Singletary from FAU. Green Bay took Jay Sternberger from Texas A&M. Washington took Terry McLaurin from Ohio State, the receiver. New England took Chase Winovich from Michigan, the pass rusher. Miami took Michael Dieter, the guard from Wisconsin. Rams took David Long from Michigan. He's a defensive back. Cleveland took Sione Takati from BYU, the linebacker. Detroit took Will Harris from BC. He's a safety. Tennessee took Nate Davis, the guard from Charlotte. Pittsburgh took Justin Lane from Michigan State. That was a very good pick. Kansas City took Kalen Saunders from Western Illinois. Baltimore took Jalen Ferguson, the pass rusher from Louisiana Tech. Houston took Khalil Waring from San Diego State. New England took Damian Harris from Bama. Seattle took Cody Barton of Utah, the linebacker. Colts took Bobby Okereke from Stanford. Dallas took Connor McGovern, the lineman from Penn State. Chargers took Trey Pipkins from Sioux Falls. Chargers always like to take those players from no-name schools. Jets took Chuma Edoga from USC, the lineman. So that's Sam Darnold's ex-teammate. Baltimore took Miles Boykin from Notre Dame. Tampa took Jamil Dean from Auburn, the corner. The Giants took Oshane Izemez from Old Dominion. Buffalo took Dawson Knox of Ole Miss. Rams took Bobby Evans of Oklahoma, the lineman. Jacksonville took Quincy Williams, the linebacker from Murray State. Tampa took Mike Edwards from Kentucky. Carolina with the surprise pick in the third round taking Will Grier from West Virginia. New England took Yagni Kajusti, the lineman from West Virginia who obviously protected Will Greer. That was a good pick. Minnesota took Alexander Mattison, the running back from Boise. They obviously wanted insurance for Dalvin Cook. And a notable fourth-round picks, Arizona took Hakeem Butler from Iowa State. Cincinnati took Ryan Finley of NC State. New Orleans took Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from Florida. Giants took Julian Love of Notre Dame. Other notable picks, Washington took Bryce Love of Stanford. Atlanta took Kendall Sheffield of Ohio State. Baltimore took Justice Hill of Oklahoma State. Carolina took Christian Miller, the linebacker from Bama. Tennessee took Amani Hooker of Iowa. Detroit took Austin Bryant of Clemson. Seattle took Gary Jennings Jr. of West Virginia. The Jets took Trevon Wesco from West Virginia. Pittsburgh took Benny Snell Jr. from Kentucky. Seattle took Phil Haynes of Wake. Baltimore took Ben Powers of Oklahoma. He protected Kyler Murray pretty well. Chicago got a good receiver in Riley Ridley. Cincinnati got a good interior defensive lineman in Rennell Wren from Arizona State. Baltimore took Amon Marshall of USC. Oakland took Isaiah Johnson of Houston. New England took Jarrett Stidham of Auburn. Maybe he's the successor to Tom Brady. Cincinnati took Michael Jordan, the interior offensive lineman from Ohio State. Fifth round notables, Arizona with the steal pick of Deontay Thompson, the safety from Alabama. The Bills took Vosan Joseph, the linebacker from Florida. Detroit took Amani Awore, the corner from Penn State. Oakland took Hunter Renfrow of Clemson. I predicted that he'd be drafted by New England, but I was wrong. Washington takes Ross Pierschbreicher, the guard of Alabama. Cleveland with the steal, Mack Wilson of Alabama. Dallas drafted Michael Jackson, the defensive back from Miami. Houston drafts Charles Aminu, the edge rusher from Texas. Dallas drafts Joe Jackson, he's the edge rusher from Miami. Chargers take Easton Stick, the quarterback from North Dakota State. Philadelphia takes Clayton Thorson of Northwestern as, I guess, a backup option for Carson Wentz. Sixth round notables, Jacksonville takes Gardner Minshew, the quarterback from Washington State. Buffalo takes Jaquan Johnson, the cornerback from Miami. Giants took Corey Ballantyne, the cornerback from Washburn, who was shot. And his friend was shot and killed, with Ballantyne lucky to survive that incident. Cincinnati takes Trayvon Williams, the running back from Texas A&M. The Green Bay Packers take Dexter Williams, the running back from Notre Dame. Baltimore takes Trace McSorley, the quarterback from Penn State. He's in the mix to back up Lamar Jackson as well as RG3. Washington with the mega steal taking Kelvin Harmon, the wideout from North Carolina State. Cincinnati takes Rodney Anderson, the running back from Oklahoma. Seventh round notables. Cleveland takes Donnie Lewis Jr., the corner from Tulane. Dallas takes Mike Weber, the running back from Ohio State. Green Bay takes the linebacker Ty Summers from TCU. Washington takes Jimmy Moreland, the cornerback from James Madison. Miami took Myles Gaskin, the running back from Washington. He was very talented in college. And then you have some other undrafted players, which I'll get to, but Mr. Irrelevant was Caleb Wilson, the tight end of UCLA, picked by the Arizona Cardinals. Two notable undrafted players, David Sills of West Virginia, the wide receiver. I thought for sure he'd be a day 3 draft pick. I thought that was going to be a steal for somebody, but no. As an undrafted free agent, he signs with the Buffalo Bills. So I think he'll have an impact catching passes from Josh Allen. And then Denver signs Brett Rypien, the quarterback from Boise State, to be a future backup for Drew Lock, I guess. Probably number 3 quarterback on their depth chart behind Lock and obviously Joe Flacco. Like I said, I'm going to do a more draft in-depth podcast revealing all my draft grades and picks that I liked and disliked and picks I thought were reaches and whatnot. Now we'll move on to the NBA and go over the playoff games from the weekend. So many big games. Over the weekend, the Warriors defeat the Clippers 129-110. Golden State moves on to the second round. Kevin Durant was a monster. Obviously, the Clipper fans gave their team a standing ovation after the game, applauding them for what a great year they had. Obviously, Ralph Lauer retiring after the season, so he had a bit of a send-off there. And then Saturday began round 2 with a 108-95 win for Toronto over Philly to take a 1-0 series lead. Kawhi Leonard was sensational. He had 45 points with 11 rebounds. J.J. Redick led Philly in scoring. He only had 17. To conclude the first round of the playoffs, the Nuggets over Spurs 90-86 to win Game 7 to advance to the second round. I had Denver in 7. That was my only series pick I was correct on in the first round as the Nuggets advance. Just an awful way for the season for the Spurs to end. They did not execute well down the stretch, in my opinion. DeMar DeRozan was missing shots left and right. They didn't foul with 30 seconds ago. They just let the clock run out, which I thought was wrong. And they should have fouled, because what if somebody misses free throws? The Spurs, don't forget, obviously missed those crucial free throws, which cost them a trip to which cost them an NBA championship in 2013, or else they would have been back-to-back winners, and Kawhi would have 2 rings rather than just 1. And maybe Kawhi would have had 2 finals MVPs as well. You never know. But they should have fouled. You never know what would have happened. They probably still lose the game. It's very rare when the team comes back and wins, as I just exemplified in the Spurs in Game 6 in 2013 against the Heat. But it's very rare that happens. But I think Popovich was trying to make his team foul, but credit to the Denver fans cheering and yipping and yapping. The San Antonio players couldn't hear their head coach. Jamal Murray was excellent in the closeout game. He had 23 points. Nikola Jokic had 21, 15, and 10. Gary Harris had 11. Meanwhile, for San Antonio, DeRozan and Forbes each had 19. LaMarcus Aldridge had 16 and 11. Off the bench, Rudy Gay had 21. Great season for the Spurs. I can't say their season was a failure, because it wasn't. I did not think this team would be a playoff team this year. I had them sub 500, and I thought there was a chance they'd trade LaMarcus Aldridge, but I was wrong. And the team exemplified my expectations. I thought Popovich would retire at the end of the year, but maybe he'll retire after next year. And obviously, this was one of his best coaching jobs. I think he should be top 5 for the coach of the year. And I'm interested to see what the Spurs look like next year. I think they're going to be better because they're getting DeJounte Murray back from the torn ACL. And they have trade assets to play with. Maybe they go out and acquire a disgruntled star this summer. Maybe they're a dark horse team to sign DeMarcus Cousins after coming off the torn quad. I don't really know their cap situation by heart. But they obviously have DeRozan. They have Aldridge. They have DeJounte Murray coming back. They have Bryn Forbes. They have Derek White. They have Rudy Gay. I think Gay's actually in a contract year, if I'm not mistaken. So they have some pieces to play with. And they obviously have 2 first-round picks to play with, too. Maybe they're a dark horse candidate to move up in the draft like they did in 2011 for Kawhi Leonard. So you never know with the Spurs. And then, obviously, Denver moves on to take on the Portland Trailblazers. And I'll get to my prediction of that series in a couple of minutes. Celtics over the Bucks 112-90 in Game 1 of that Eastern Conference semifinal series. The Celtics take a 1-0 series lead. An impressive win for Boston. Kyrie Irving had 26 points. He was great. Al Horford, 20 points and 11 boards. Jaylen Brown at 19, including 3 3-pointers. Jason Tatum and Marcus Morris were not good. Gordon Hayward had 13 off the bench. Terry Rozier had 11 off the bench. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 22 points on 7 for 21 shooting. So probably his worst game of the playoffs. Chris Middleton had 16, 10, and 6, so that's pretty impressive. Nikola Mirotic had 13. And Malcolm Brogdon, somebody I think they need back to bolster their depth, and they missed him in this game against a team that is much better than the Detroit Pistons in Boston. The Warriors defeat the Rockets 104-100 in Game 1 to take a 1-0 series lead. Kevin Durant had 35 points to lead the Warriors. Draymond Green had 14, 9, and 9. He's been playing a lot better. Steph Curry had 18 with 7 boards. He had the dagger shot of the game, in my opinion. Although the Rockets did have a chance to tie it after that. Andre Iguodala had 14 as he started. Klay Thompson had 13. And their bench didn't even do anything. They, in my opinion, need the bench to produce more because I think Houston's bench will eventually come around as their bench didn't do much either. James Harden had 35 points on 9 of 28 shooting with 6 assists. Eric Gordon had 27. Chris Paul had 17. Those 3 guys can't do it alone. Clint Capella needs to be better. PJ Tucker, when scoreless, he has to be better. Nene needs to be better off the bench. Gerald Green needs to hit some shots for them to be better. I still like Houston's bench better than Golden State's bench, but both benches have to step up. And normally, in a game where it's all the starters doing all the work, and it's normally the home team that comes out on top, and Golden State was obviously the home team there. And I don't think Houston's in trouble by any stretch of the imagination. 2 games tonight, 8 o'clock TNT, the 76ers and the Raptors. Toronto's up 1-0. Toronto is a 6.5-point favorite. Tough call here. I'm going to say Toronto wins to go up 2-0, but Philly covers the 6.5. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be similar to the Rockets game in the sense of they're going to have chances to tie or take the lead and just don't capitalize. Trailblazers, Nuggets, 10:30 TNT. Denver's a 4-point favorite in the game, but let me preview the series first. Denver's coming off the 7-game series win over San Antonio. Portland's coming off their impressive 5-game series win over the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think that Damian Lillard has been the best player in the playoffs so far. Nikola Jokic just had a good playoff. Jamal Murray's been great. Gary Harris has been great. CJ McCollum's hit some big shots. Enes Kanter has been awesome filling in for Nurkic Jurkic. He's actually played a little defense. But I think there's a chance he's exposed by Nikola Jokic. I really thought Steven Adams was going to expose him in the first round, which would cost them. But I was wrong. Steven Adams was a no-show, and now he's being talked about as an off-season trade bait for Oklahoma City. And obviously the benches for both teams, Malik Beasley. You have Monte Morris, who's been good for Denver. Juan Hernan-Gomez is solid. I mean, for Portland, their bench has been sensational. Jake Layman and Zach Collins have stepped up. Obviously, Seth Curry is somebody that everybody loves. Enes Kanter's uncertain for the second round with a shoulder injury. That'd be a big loss for Portland. So that my pick for the series makes me a little nervous now with that injury. But I think Zach Collins can come in and do great if he gets the opportunity to start. I think, is a better defensive player than Enes Kanter. I just think that Enes Kanter stinks defensively, and that was just sort of fluky that he was good defensively against the Thunder. So, give me Portland in 6. Damian Lillard's just been sensational these entire playoffs, and I think this is Dame's year as a real top 10 player in the NBA that I don't think anybody's noticing that much. So, Portland in 6, but I don't feel super about it because there's a chance that Kanter misses the series, and I think he's a big part of their team from an offensive standpoint in the middle of the floor, and is somebody that can rebound well, is obviously too. Now I'll move on to the Stanley Cup playoffs, which that was an interesting weekend. Friday night, Hurricanes over the Islanders 1-0 in overtime to take a 1-0 series lead. A great win for Carolina. The overtime goal scored by Jordan Staal, his 4th of the playoffs, to give the Hurricanes a 1-0 win. Number star of the game with 31 saves on 31 shots, Peter Mrazek. Number 2 star of the game, 31 saves on 30 shots, Robin Leonard. Number 3 star of the game with the overtime goal, Jordan Staal. So this game was pretty much dead even, but it was just one goal it took for Carolina to win. Sharks over the Avalanche 5-2. Sharks took a 1-0 series lead. This was a good performance by the Sharks, but Colorado got on the board early. Gabriel Baroque scored his first of the playoffs. 1-0 Avs. Gustav Nyquist's first of the playoffs ties up at 1 apiece. Second period, Avalanche take a 2-1 lead on a goal by Colin Wilson, his third of the playoffs on the power play. Joe Thornton scores his second of the playoffs, tied up at 2 apiece. Kevin LeBlanc's third of the playoffs, 3-2 San Jose. Brent Burns' second of the playoffs, 4-2 San Jose. Third period into the empty net, Timo Meier, 5-2 Sharks win game 1. Saturday's games. Stars over the Blues, 4-2 to even up that series at 1 apiece. An impressive win for the Stars. The guy who's been an absolute surprise player for the Stars in the postseason with his third goal of the playoffs, Roope Hintz gave the Stars a 1-0 lead. Miro Heiskanen second of the playoffs, 2-0 Stars. Colin Parayko's first of the playoffs made it a 2-1 game. And putting the Stars up 3-1. Matthias Janmark. No goals in the second period, and in the third period, Jaden Schwartz makes it a 3-2 game, his fifth of the playoffs. And then, yet again, Roope Hintz, his fourth of the playoffs, 4-2 Stars. That's your winner. That was an empty net goal, by the way, for Dallas. So this was a closer game than the final score said, obviously, but a great win for Dallas, nonetheless. Blue Jackets over the Bruins 3-2 in overtime. This was a really good game. Actually, it went to double overtime. Boston got off to a fast start. They scored on the power play on a goal by Matt Grzelcyk to give themselves a 1-0 lead. Artemi Panarin started the playoffs on the power play, tied it at 1 apiece. David Pasternak's third of the playoffs gave Boston a 2-1 lead. Artemi Panarin's fourth of the playoffs tied it up at 2 apiece. No scoring until double overtime. Matt Duchene's fourth of the playoffs on the power play, 3-2 Columbus, your final. Number 1 star of the game with the overtime goal, Matt Duchene. Number 2 star of the game with 29 saves on 31 shots, Sergei Bobrovsky. Number 3 star of the game with 38 saves on 41 shots, Tuukka Rask. Kept Boston in that game. Yesterday, Hurricanes over the Islanders should have won to take a commanding 2-0 series lead. This was a great win for Carolina. Islanders got on the board first on a power play goal by Matthew Barzal, his first of the playoffs, 1-0 Isles. Third period, the surprising player for Carolina, Warren Foegele, his fifth of the playoffs, tied up at 1 apiece, 17 seconds in. And then, not short after, Nino Niederreiter's first of the playoffs, 2-1 Carolina was your final. The Islanders got a goal waved off because the Islanders player kicked it to the stick of a Carolina player, then the goal went in. They disallowed it. That pretty much gave Carolina momentum for the game, and they took advantage of it. Number 1 star of the game with a goal, Nino Niederreiter. Number 2 star of the game with a goal, Warren Foegele. Number 3 star of the game with a goal, Matthew Barzal. Avalanche over the Sharks 4-3 to even up that series at 1 apiece. This is the first win for Colorado at the Shark Tank in a really long time, and it couldn't have come at a better time. But the Sharks got on the board first on a goal by Evander Kane. Gave the Sharks a 1-0 lead. That was his second of the playoffs. Second period, Gabriel Landeskog, second of the playoffs, made it a 1-1 game. Tyson Barrie's first of the playoffs made it a 2-1 game. Third period, Matt Nieto's third of the playoffs made it a 3-1 game. Brent Burns' third of the playoffs made it a 3-2 game. Nathan McKinnon's fourth of the playoffs made it 4-2 Avs. And then Brent Burns on the power play with 2 extra skaters on, which would have meant because they obviously had the goalie pull. That was his fourth of the playoffs. Made it a 4-3 game. Number 1 star of the game with a goal and 2 assists, Tyson Barrie. Number 2 star of the game with a goal and assist, Gabriel Landeskog. Number 3 star of the game with 2 goals and an assist, Brent Burns. Only one game on tonight coming from Dallas. It's the Blues and the Stars, 8 o'clock, NBC, SN. Kenny Albert, AJ Malesko, Pierre Maguire on the call. This is a tough call. I really like how Dallas played the other day in St. Louis. But I just think the Blues are the best team left standing in the Stanley Cup playoffs, although you can make a case for the Bruins. So I'm going to say that St. Louis comes out and performs very well. I think Dallas and that home crowd will be behind the team. And I think the Blues will take a 4-3 overtime win to take a 2-1 series lead. So that's my call. And by the way, I never gave out a pick for Game 1 of Denver-Portland. I think the Blazers win Game 1 regardless of the Canner status for the game. I just think Portland's really good. Now I'll move on to baseball. We'll just talk about Sunday's results. Rays over the Red Sox 5-2. Tampa Bay improves to 18-9. Boston 11-17. Tyler Glasnow's 5-0. Chris Sale's 0-5. Diego Castillo's third save of the year. Phillies over the Marlins 5-1. Phillies are 16-12. Marlins 8-20. Zach Eflin the win 3-3. Pablo Lopez the loss 2-4. Blue Jays over the Athletics 5-4 on a walk-off hit by Justin Smoke. The winning pitcher, 1-0 on the year now. Elvis Luciano, youngest player in the big leagues, youngest pitcher to get a win in a very long time. And then Blake Treinen, the loss drops to 1-2. So he's been a little disappointing so far. Mets over the Brewers 5-2, much needed win for the Mets. They are 14-13. Milwaukee's 15-14. Steven Matz the win 3-1. The losing pitcher for Milwaukee, Jacob Barnes, now down to 1-1. Edwin Diaz gets his 8th save of the year. Braves over the Rockies 8-7, a good win for Atlanta. They're 13-14. Colorado's 13-15. The winning pitcher for Atlanta, Jacob Webb, saying 1-0. The loss drops to 1-1, and Luke Jackson gets his first save of the season. Nats over the Padres 7-6 in 11 innings on a walk-off home run by Matt Adams. Washington's 12-14. San Diego 16-12. The winning pitcher for Washington, Justin Miller, 1-0. Matt Whistler, the loss drops to 1-1. Fernando Tatis got injured in this game. Hopefully he doesn't go to the IL for the Padres' sake. White Sox over the Tigers 4-1. White Sox 11-14. Detroit's 12-14. Reynaldo Lopez gets a win 2-3. Matt Boyd, the loss 1-2. Alex Colon gets his 5th save of the year. Twins over the Orioles 4-1. The Twins are 16-9. The Orioles are 10-19. Kyle Gibson the win 2-0. Dylan Bundy the loss 0-4. Blaine Parker gets his 5th save of the year. Angels over the Royals 7-3. The Angels are 12-17. Kansas City's 9-19. Matt Harvey to win. He's 1-2. Homer Bailey the loss 2-3. Cardinals over the Reds 5-2. The Cards are 17-10. Cincinnati's 11-16. Jack Flaherty the win. He's 3-1. Sonny Gray the loss 0-4. John Gant gets his 2nd save of the season. Cubs over the Diamondbacks 6-5 in 15 innings. So that was some win for the Cubs. They're 14-12. Arizona's 16-13. Tyler Chatwood the win. He's 1-0. Matt Andrees the loss 3-2. Alan Webster gets his first save of the season. Dodgers over the Pirates 7-6. Dodgers are 19-11. Pittsburgh's 12-14. Julio Urias the win. He's 2-1. Richard Rodriguez the loss. He is 0-2. And Kenley Jansen gets his 10th save of the year. Rangers over the Mariners 14-1. That's an impressive win for Texas. They're 14-13. Seattle's 18-13. Lance Lynn gets the win. He's 3-2. Eric Swanson the loss 0-3. Yankees over the Giants 11-5. Yankees are 9-1 their last 10 games. They're 17-11 on the year. Giants dropped to 11-17. Domingo Germán gets the win. He's 5-1. Derek Rodriguez the loss. He's 3-3. Astros over the Indians 4-1 on Sunday Night Baseball. Astros are 17-11. Cleveland's 15-12. Framber Valdez gets the win. He's 1-1. Carlos Carrasco the loss. He's 2-3. Ryan Presley gets his 2nd save of the season. Tonight's game, 7 o'clock on ESPN. You have the Athletics and the Red Sox. That's a big one. Frankie Montas against Eduardo Rodriguez. The Red Sox starting pitching has been abysmal this year for the most part. Their best starting pitcher this year has actually been David Price. Who would have thought that? Frankie Montas is somebody that's shown some promise. He has a 3.1 ERA and he's 4-1 on the year. Erod's 2-2 at the 5.88. Tough call. But I really like the Athletics here on the road to get a nice win in Fenway Park. Cards in the Nationals. Michael Wacha and Patrick Corbin. Wacha's 1-0 at the 4.64. Corbin 2-0 at the 2.48. Reds in the Mets. Tanner Roark and Zach Wheeler. Roark 1-1 with a 3.24. Wheeler 2-2 at the 4.85. 7:20 the Padres and the Braves. Nick Margevicius and Mike Soroka. Margevicius 2-2 with the 3.6. Soroka 1-1 with the 1.69. 740 Rockies Brewers. Kyle Freeland and Zach Davies. Freeland 2-3 at the 4.23. Davies 2-0 at the 1.65. So Davies has exceeded expectations so far. Big game from Minnesota as the Twins host the Astros. Prove-it series for Minnesota again after playing pretty well against Houston the last time. Jake Odorizzi against Justin Verlander. Verlander 4-0 at the 2.61. Odorizzi 2-2 at the 4.37. 8 o'clock, Orioles at the White Sox, two of the worst teams in the league. Jalen Means against Manny Banuelos. Means 3-2 at the 1.74. Banuelos 1-0 at the 2.51. 8:15, Rays Royals. Ryan Stanek going to open for the Rays. He has a 1.32. Brett Keller starting for KC 2-2 at the 3.41. And last but not least, at 9:45, the Dodgers against the Giants. Kenta Maeda against Jeff Samardzija. Maeda 3-2 at the 5.2. Samardzija 2-1 at the 3. So Samardzija playing or pitching very well. Probably pitching his best he ever has since getting that contract from the Giants. Now I'm going to do my power rankings for the week. I'm going to go from 30 to 1. Then I'll just say a quick little thought as I go by each team. 30s, the Marlins are just been dreadful. They're 8-20. And then last. 29's the Orioles. They have some frisky players. They're in last in the division. 28 is the Royals. They have not played well of late. Number 27 is the San Francisco Giants. They got swept by the Yankees at home. And the Yankees didn't even have half their roster. 26, the Detroit Tigers. They're just a lousy team. 25 is the White Sox. They're playing a little better right now. 24 is the Red Sox. They've been the biggest underachiever in the league so far, in my opinion. 23 is the Angels, who disappointed in their series against the Yankees. 22 is the Pirates. They've lost 8 straight games. 21 is the Reds. They're playing a little better. They have a positive run differential. 20 is the Oakland Athletics. The A's are a little inconsistent. Negative run differential, though. I think things will get better for them. Number 19 is the Toronto Blue Jays. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is up, and he's lived up to hype so far. He has 2 hits so far. It's only a matter of time when he starts hitting bombs out of the ballpark. 18th, the Colorado Rockies. They're almost at 500. 17th, the New York Mets. They've been disappointing over the last couple days, even though they won yesterday. 16th, the Texas Rangers. They've exceeded my expectations so far. They have a positive run differential, and their pitching's actually been decent. 15th, Arizona Diamondbacks. To me, the biggest surprise in baseball, perhaps. Them in Texas and Arizona after losing Paul Goldschmidt and Patrick Corbin. A lot of people thought that they were going to be horrible, but they haven't been horrible so far. And they have the Yankees this week, so maybe they take advantage of their injuries and stuff. Or maybe the Yanks turn it on again. 14th, the Washington Nationals. They're 2 games under 500. Number 13's the Atlanta Braves. They're also 2 games under 500. Their fans are chanting for Craig Kimbrell yesterday. 12's the San Diego Padres. They've been one of the surprises early on the season. Manny Machado has really gotten that fan base excited, as well as Fernando Tatis Jr. 11's the Milwaukee Brewers. Their starting pitching has not been very good outside of Zach Davies. Gio Gonzalez pitched for them yesterday. 10's the Cleveland Indians. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Astros. But they're still a good baseball team, in my opinion. And Francisco Lindor's back, so that's good, as well as Jose Ramirez. He's back, too. 9's the Seattle Mariners. They're regressing after their hot start, as many folks have predicted. 8, the Philadelphia Phillies. They're playing good ball. They're in first in their division. 7, the Tampa Bay Rays. I dropped them because they really have been a little mediocre, sort of, late. I think they're 5-5 in their last 10. Nate Lowe got promoted. We'll see what he brings to the table as he would join their young core of Brandon Lowe, Willie Adames, Austin Meadows, Christian Arroyo, and all those guys down there. 6 is the Chicago Cubs. They've been playing better baseball lately after their slow start. Number 5 is the New York Yankees. They've defied expectations with all these injuries, and they won 3 out of 4 against the Angels. They swept San Francisco. Now they have Arizona coming up, and then after that they play Tampa Bay at home which is going to be some series and some telling series. And I think it's a big test for the Yankees because a lot of people are doubting them right now and saying that this nice run with all their injury replacement players is because they've been playing bad teams, and the only good team they've played all year is Houston, and they got swept. But my argument is that they could have won some of those Houston games, especially the first two, but their bullpen just didn't get the job done. So that's my argument for those people that are arguing that the Yankees are not very good because they got swept by the best team they've played. Number 4 is the Houston Astros. They have the same record as the Yankees at 17-11. And they had a good weekend by taking 2 out of 3 against the Indians, although they could have lost both of those games. 3 to Minnesota Twins. They have the best record in AL right now. They have a big test coming up against the Astros at home. After having some success against the Astros before, 2, the Dodgers. They're the best team in the National League in my mind, or you could certainly make a case for it, but to me, they're the team to beat right now in that conference. And to me, Cody Bellinger has to be in the conversation with Christian Yelich for the National League Player of the Month. And number 1 is the St. Louis Cardinals. I think they're the team that's playing the best right now, so they're at my number 1 spot. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. They don't have any big pieces injured other than Michael Wacha. And Marcell Ozuna's looking like the player that they thought they traded for at the winter meetings a few years ago. And he has been the 3rd best player in the National League, in my opinion, or arguably behind Bellinger and Yelich, although his teammate Goldschmidt is right there as well and producing up to capability too. Now, last but not least, my best bet of the day, brought to you by DraftKings. We have some interesting choices with an NBA playoff game that I think is almost a lock tonight on the money line. And then some baseball games as well. We'll go with the Raptors. We'll avoid the Dallas-St. Louis game only because I think that that's a toss-up game, even though it's in Dallas, and I just said I thought St. Louis would win. There's some baseball matchups. They were like, oh, wait, Wacha's not on the IL for the Cardinals. That's a mistake. Somebody's on the IL for the Cardinals. That's notable. I just can't think of who it is. I know it's a pitcher. And they're actually dogs in D.C. today against Patrick Corbin and the Washington Nationals. I like the Mets and Zach Wheeler tonight at home. I like the Braves and Mike Soroka. I'll take Verlander on the road against Jake Odorizzi and the Twins. And I'll take the Dodgers against Jeff Samardzija and the Giants. That's plus 835, wagering $1. Payout of $9.35. That's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tonight with the draft podcast, reviewing all the picks and whatnot, giving out team grades and saying what picks I feel like were reaches and steals and whatnot. And then I'll have tomorrow's podcast recapping the playoffs and baseball. And maybe I'll have an activity at the end of the podcast. I have best bet for tomorrow, and I'm going to have 2 guests on this week in all likelihood. One guest being Josh Eberly to talk about the NBA playoffs and what's next for the teams that were eliminated in the first round and get his take on Kevin Durant's future and Kyrie Irving's future and the Lakers' future. And then my buddy Jeffrey's going to come on Friday to preview and predict the Kentucky Derby with me as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.